Uh, Thank you for being here.
You're
I know
welcome.
you've had a busy few months.
Yeah.
We'll, we'll get to that in a bit, but I wanted to start bigger picture. Um, Hollywood, I feel like, has spent a lot of the last few years debating the future of the movie business, which is a business you've worked in for a long time. The pandemic sort of basically paused it, crushed it, whatever you want to say. It has slowly been coming back. This summer was probably the best summer we've had since before. How are you feeling right now about the state of the industry and what it's going to look like in the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, the big picture is it has never been more, I would say, volatile. I mean, it has, but it continues to be volatile. But like you said, we did see real signs of life this summer. So generally speaking, box office is down globally around 20% to 2019, so pre-pandemic levels. But this summer, it was 5% down. Right, so it would suggest that even though there were winners and losers of this summer, and obviously we had the two big juggernauts with Barbie and Oppenheimer, movie-going begets movie-going, right? So when there's a season filled with, good movies that people want to see, I was made to feel pretty optimistic about what we saw in the summer.
What you mentioned Oppenheimer. We can talk about Barbie, although that's not one of your movies. Your two big movies of the year were Mario and Oppenheimer. Which of those was a bigger surprise to you?
I think probably Oppenheimer. I mean, an R-rated film with that subject matter, and at the running time. And I wasn't surprised that it was successful, right? I mean, it's Christopher Nolan. We know that he is a singular filmmaker who audiences globally really want to go see. But I was really surprised at the sort of the breadth of the audience, the demographic. It skewed from young kids, not young kids, but teenagers, all the way up to an older audience. So it was pretty surprising.
You used the word singular to describe Christopher Nolan. I'm wondering because in conversations I've had, at least in the last few weeks, few months, there seem to be some people who are drawing conclusions from Oppenheimer, seeing that as a really good sign, say, for the Martin Scorsese movie that's about to open, or other very long, big dramas. Do you feel like the success of Oppenheimer says anything about the business, or is it the case that Chris Nolan is just a filmmaker? Like, from where I'm coming from, at least, Chris Nolan and Quentin Tarantino seem like two filmmakers where if they make a movie, they're like a brand, right? Even if they're original, people will show up to see them. So I'm not sure, do you get what I'm saying? I'm not sure if that means anything for even a Martin Scorsese, because his movies, their performance have been less consistent.
Yeah, I think, I think in the case of Christopher Nolan, he makes films for the big screen. And really for the big screen only. Of course, you can watch a Christopher Nolan movie at home, and eventually you'll be able to do that. But I mean, everything he does, from shooting on IMAX to 70 millimeter, to the way that he really his films encourage audiences to experience his films on IMAX screens and in the large format. I think it all speaks to. Again, I use that word, a sort of singular cinematic experience. You know what you're going to get, not subject matter wise, but you're going to get a very fulfilling experience at the movie theater, and sort of, quite frankly, value for your money.
I'm wondering, you mentioned he makes his movies for theaters, which seems obvious, but there only are a few filmmakers that really, really care about that. It's one of the reasons, correct me if I'm wrong, that he became available, that you could work with him, because he had been at Warner Brothers for a very long time. And during the depths of the pandemic, Warner Brothers did this experiment where they took a bunch of their movies and made them available online at the same time as they were in theaters. And there were a lot of people who got very upset about this. Christopher Nolan was one of them. He sort of insulted the streaming service, if I recall. We have pivoted back a little bit, right? Where during the pandemic, it was like, let's get the movies online as quick as possible. You guys experimented with something called PVOD, which is you being able to rent or buy it at home not long after. What do you think is the happy medium? What is the right amount of time for a movie to be in theaters before people can watch it at home, at least with the bigger ones, not with smaller movies?
Yeah. Well, I think that yeah, like you say, the industry has definitely found a balance now. During the pandemic, obviously, everybody was experimenting and doing what we were all doing what we could to monetize the films. It was important to us, certainly for us at Universal, to keep films flowing through cinemas. To keep them healthy, and by and large, it worked. And you mentioned PVOD. But I think, look, we saw it last summer with Top Gun. It had a very long theatrical run, and it was, I think it was quite some, like, I forget how many days, but it was sort of the maximum number of days before it went into a home entertainment window. Same thing for Oppenheimer. So, I think the name of the game is flexibility. It's not one size fits all. But in general, what we found anyway with this PVOD window, which occurs either 17 or 35-ish days after theatrical release, that there's no cannibalization. In other words, the majority of the box office for that film has been earned before it goes into a premium home entertainment window. It's a rental window, right? So it's not for everybody. It's at a higher price point. And so we've really found that has become an additional revenue stream for us.
Is it a significant revenue stream for all of your movies, or are there particular types of movies that overperform?
There are certainly particular types of movies, like for our Focus Feature slate, which is our specialty division, for instance, their films tend to do very well on PVOD. So that's maybe an older audience, more discerning audience in terms of what they might go out to the movie theater to see. Still movies that they want to see, and so they're willing to pay that premium price for them, but they might prefer to stay at home and watch them.
And presumably a slightly wealthier audience.
Yeah, exactly.
How comfortable are you, or what is your current thinking around making movies just for streaming?
Yeah, we're still in an experimentation phase with that, to be honest. We've done a few of them, and to sort of varying levels of success. We've made a couple of movies this year already for Peacock, for our sister platform. And, they find their audience, they do well. And I think that they do well on the platform, certainly in terms of retention. But they are, they tend to be expensive. When we're making a film, through the studio system, it's got all the bells and whistles of it. We are geared towards making films for theatrical. So that just means that, in terms of crews that we're hiring, the post-production process, it's full sound mix and all things like that. We are making films as if they would go theatrically, right? So I think the price point is maybe a little bit high, and really and truly, I do.
So sorry, the price point as in
the budget of what we're spending on the films, and I think what makes films a kind of cultural event, by and large, it's not always the case because other streamers do this at scale, is that big global marketing campaign. When you're putting millions of dollars behind a campaign, and you're sort of blasting it out to the world and getting people to come and see it. And I haven't found quite the proxy for that in the streaming world yet.
Well, I'm curious, you used the phrase varying levels of success. So of the ones you've put out, what has been a very successful streaming movie and what is one that is less successful?
Let's see. Well, we had this year, we had two films that, one called Praise This and another one called Shooting Stars, which was based on a documentary called More Than a Game, which is, LeBron's life story growing up in Akron, Ohio. It did very well for the platform, but again, it's sort of relative to the cost. And so I think that's where we're focused at the moment, to see that level of investment.
I'm wondering, so we talked about some of your bigger hits and the good news this summer. The bad news, kind of until the Barbenheimer weekend, was you had a lot of these franchises that underperformed relative to past expectations. You had at least one of them in the latest Fast movie. What lessons do you draw from that? A lot of people start talking about franchise fatigue. Do you look at that and say, okay, we need to wait 5 years before another Fast movie, or do you look at that and say we just need a better script for the next one?
Well, I'll speak specifically about Fast and Furious. It's going to end up in the top 5 of films, for the summer, and maybe even for the year. We'll see what happens. So it is a film that is price sensitive. So we could probably stand to bring that budget down quite a bit to increase our profitability. But I think what we saw in the aggregate, and again, I'll use Fast as the example, is that the audience celebrated and rewarded originality, right? With both Oppenheimer and Barbie. These are two very original films in the hands of, singular. It's my third time using that word. I got to find another one. Everyone's got a suggestion. They're I want to say auteur, but auteur writ large, right? These are filmmakers who have a very specific voice and
visionary, unique.
Here, I need the journalist to help me out with my vocabulary. But yeah, so I think the audience rewarded that. I think that it sort of goes back to your first question about where the cinema going is headed. I think originality, it matters. And I think we are perhaps seeing the audience tire a bit of tried and true and tested blockbuster formula, as good as they may be and as entertaining as they may be. But, we've sort of, I certainly got the sense, just in a kind of feeling the audience way, it was just a little bit of an eye roll, been there, done that. I kind of, maybe I can wait. We've trained the audience to see things at home, right? And they can do it in a comfortable way and also in a pretty good way if you've got the big TV and everything. So I think that there's I'll wait to see that until a later time.
This is going to be a weird question coming off of you kind of praising originality, but I gave everyone a whole spiel about polls, and I didn't do the poll with Ari, so I have to do a poll with you. And this is going to be about reboots, if we can put it on the screen, or unless I really just confused everyone. You can see it. So everyone in the audience, weigh in on this one. Maybe a sensitive subject because you just had a horror reboot that didn't do as well as you hoped. But it was from the 70s, not the 80s. Which horror? I don't need to read this to you. You guys can see it. We'll see the results from that in a second, but I'm curious what you think. And I remain confused as to why we put E.T. as a horror movie, but that's...
I know. I thought that was a trick question. Obviously, I'm not choosing that one. Yeah, I don't want that phone call. So I have to make this answer?
Yeah.
So which horror film from the 80s would you like to see remade? I'm going to say Gremlins. Yay!
You win.
Oh my God!
And yet E.T. is second. I don't know what is going on here, but.
Do I get a prize?
I'll find something for you.
Is it a drinking game?
Well, there will be drinks afterwards. Yes.
I see you.
I'm curious. So I mentioned earlier you have a new position, or you kind of added more to your empire. You now oversee the TV studio. You oversee programming on streaming, although that's sort of a shared responsibility. Is that right?
Yep.
How is that going to work between you and Mark Lazarus?
Well, it is already working in the sense that, so what we did was we separated out the sort of media side of things, so the monetization, right, ad sales and so on, and he of course has a big portfolio with sports in there as well, and the content side. And really just to speak about the content piece for a second, the sort of vision for it is to have a content hub. So in a company like ours where when we're talking to content creators, we really want to be able to curate an experience for them where they walk in the door and, the sky's the limit. And, between film, television, streaming, network, linear, theme parks, there's a whole plethora of ways that they can find to, sort of express their creativity. So that's a sort of one of the goals anyway. And also as things continue to be disrupted and we're really looking at how the sort of linear network plays in with our streaming efforts, how to do that in the best way, and you just pull all of those resources together
right.
to figure that out.
So your streaming service is Peacock. It accounts, if you trust the Nielsen data, at least in the US, for usually about or a little more than 1% of TV viewing in the US. It's considerably smaller than Netflix, Amazon, the Disney services. You guys spend a lot less on it. It's fairly comparable to the Paramount Pluses and Maxes of the world. How are you guys thinking about increasing the audience and the amount of time people spend on it? And is there a share of TV viewing that is a target for you guys?
That I don't want to speak to. I would leave that to my streaming partners. But really, I mean, look, I think from a sort of a content standpoint, when there's sports, which is working really well. There's our Pay One films, which flow through. They get the first 3 months, and those are working really well. And so I think it is about continuing to build the communities that are showing up onto the platform. So, sports obviously aggregates a lot of people with certain audience, with certain content preferences and tastes, and catering to that audience. We have a very robust female audience, and so it's about, again, sort of continuing to cater to those audiences who are already coming into the platform, and then figuring out how we can expand beyond that.
And is a lot of the female audience coming out of Bravo and some of the other?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one other question that you're going to give me daggers for. But there's been a lot of discussion over the last couple of years about further M&A in the media business, and yours is a company that's been tossed out a lot, whether it's Warner Bros. Discovery, Paramount, all of that. As I realize that is a decision that gets made in Philadelphia, but as someone as one of those kind of 2 or 3 senior most people at NBCUniversal, do you feel, as you are now, that you have the scale that you need to compete?
Well, no. No, I mean, we are, like you described Peacock in, I think, an appropriate way. It was a late entrant, and it is growing. And so I think it's about, I think the way I look at it is, again, in this age of disruption, which just seems to become more disrupted every day, week after week. I think Taylor Swift is at the Grove, right?
Yes.
So
thank you to all of you who came here instead of the Taylor Swift.
Kind of case in point, which is, it's about figuring out how to aggregate an audience around, whether it's an event, live sports, of course, concerts, but how to create, how to draw audiences in. So through gaming, through great content, through content that speaks to particular demographics in a very kind of attractive way. So I think it's about a bunch of different things, and figuring out which of those levers are available to us as a company to pull.
Right.
And like you said, it's way above my pay grade.
A little bit above your pay grade, not way above. We made it this far without talking about the strike, which I feel like we have to address a little bit. We'll start with the one you don't want to answer, and then we'll get to the ones you can answer. Can we get a status update on the negotiations with the actors?
Look, no. I mean, I think the best way I could say it is that, we've been spending time with the actors, and we want to spend as much time as it takes until we get, until we can reach a resolution and get the industry back on its feet and back to work. That's been our goal since day one.
Yeah, I don't know if you were here earlier for when Ari was on stage, but his thing, which is something I've heard from a lot of people.
No, because I was at STAG. I'm kidding.
his shtick, which is what I've heard from a lot of people, is like, just get in the room and talk, right? But it seems like you've been doing that. So I'm not gonna. On the writer's strike, which I feel like you can't talk about, it's been ratified. The deal is done. You were one of the kind of the principals in the room closing that deal. For those that haven't been following it closely, what was that experience like, and why did it take 5 months to wrap that up?
Well, the experience in the room with the writers was a difficult one, because we had to deal with issues like AI and minimum staffing and things, things that had up until this point sort of been unprecedented. But eventually we made a deal, and we made a deal that was ratified, as you said, on Monday with 99%, I think, voting, which is great for them, of course. And we felt good about the deal that was made. So, I can't speak to why it took the time that it took. It just took the time that it took. People go on strike. They mean to be on strike. So.
Yeah, you brought up AI, which is obvious, which sort of came out of nowhere in many ways. There'll be some know-it-alls in the room who say that they saw it coming. But is that are there tools that your studio is already using, or how do you see? I mean, you also used the word disruption earlier. How are you seeing the possible impact of some of that technology on your industry?
What I would say is, I think the things that, as it pertains to the strike, that people are deathly afraid of, those things are not happening yet within my company anyway. I can say that, and I think we're quite a ways away from that. And there's reasons why you wouldn't do certain things like that. We are big believers that at the end of the day, creativity does come from a human being and needs to be authored by a human being. So I can say that with real sincerity. But AI has been with us in different shapes and forms for a long time. And the other thing is that some of the things in the production universe that AI might enable are just extensions of what we've done for many years, practices of tiling or whatever the other things are, post-production processes. Those things will just potentially be replaced by a different technology. That's just progress. And then I think that there's other things to look at that really have nothing to do with, sort of performance. It's just things like marketing and efficiencies, and there's all kinds of things. So I would say that we're looking at a lot of things, but there's nothing that's come in so far that's just like, oh wow, great, this AI thing is enabling us to do a certain part of the process in a completely different way that changes the way that we've done we've done business up until this point.
Right. I'm curious, if you were coming out of college right now, or if you talk to college students, would you still tell them to go into the movie business?
It's such a great question. I would say to be in the storytelling business, absolutely, yeah. And to be in the business of creating imagery, whatever technology is enabling that, yeah, definitely.
To that end, okay.
If they were passionate about it, that is.
What's the best movie you saw this year that you had nothing to do with?
Oh my gosh. Let me see. Whoa, wow. It's been so long this year already. Well, I love Barbie. I thought it was great. And I love Mission Impossible. Those two movies were fantastic, so entertaining.
Mission was fun. I was surprised that it didn't do better.
Yeah.
I realize this is also a ways off and the strikes have complicated all of this, but have you started to think about the Oscars next year? Do you have a contender?
No.
Why do I not believe that?
We don't make films to win Oscars. We make films to entertain the audience. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't know. I mean, look, I have no idea.
Well, they would presumably be a focus movie.
There would definitely be a focus movie in there. Yeah, Alexander Payne's movie. By the way, I can't say that you asked the question about one of my favorite movies this year. Actually, that I didn't get to the festivals this year, so I didn't get to see a lot of things. But there's Yorgos's movie. I'm really looking forward to seeing. Not ours, of course, but Alexander Payne's movie is really, really wonderful.
Which one? What is that called again?
It is called. Oh my God! Thank you. Thank you, The Holdovers. It's Paul Giamatti. It's such a beautiful movie.
Okay, there's an audience question here that I neglected that I think is actually probably a good place to end it, which is how tough will 2024 be given the strike delays, and what does it mean for theatrical partners?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, one of the reasons why I'm so focused on doing my part and our company's part in bringing resolution to the strike is that. It's not being able to finish the films that were, had to shut down as a result of the strike that need to be finished by a certain period of time for next summer. I'm not relishing the thought of a summer season without a volume of films. If I learned anything during COVID, it was the lack of volume. It really does impact the movie-going cadence, and we were just seeing recovery from that in 2023, again in the summer with that 5% down. And if we lose that, that's going to have a really lasting, meaningful, not good impact on our industry.
Yeah.
You really going to leave me on that down note?
Okay, I'll give you one. Who's a filmmaker that most people in this room don't know that you're really excited about?
Oh my goodness! Wow, you're making me use my memory, and that's just so hard. I think Nina Manzoor is really amazing. She does. She did a movie for Focus, and she does the show We Are Ladybots, and it's really, she's great. Yes, thank you, Focus people. Just get, please.
Okay, well,
maybe got her name not exactly right, but sorry, my brain is filled with other things.
We will end on that positive note. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.